And turning now to the investigation into documents seized from former President Donald Trump's Florida estate. The special master assigned to review those documents is holding his first hearing today. And ahead of today's hearing, Trump's attorneys said that they oppose Judge Raymond Dearie's request that they provide information about the steps Trump allegedly took to declassify the records. So Scott MacFarlane is following the story for us and joins us now from Washington. Yeah, you know, Scott, that's what he said, sort of. He never said that in writing in a court document, but he sort of floated the idea that he had the ability to sweepingly declassify whatever he wanted to. What is Donald Trump's team? What is their argument in this situation?
We're going to find out a lot out at 2 p.m. Eastern time today, a real potential inflection point in this investigation of those records seized from Mar-a-Lago. What happened before today's hearing was, in essence, this special master, this independent third party, chosen or at least nominated by former President Trump's legal team, calling the former president's bluff, saying, if you declassified some of these records, give me information about that ahead of this hearing today at 2 p.m. And the Trump legal team is arguing they can't do that because it may, in their words, compromise a potential legal defense if there's a criminal indictment for taking those records. So the bluff has been called. We'll see what happens next at this 2 p.m. conference. To give you some logistical information, this is happening in New York City. This third-party special master the Trump team chose and the Department of Justice agreed to is a federal judge in the Eastern District of New York, a senior judge who has a limited caseload, so he has the time and the bandwidth for this unique, potentially mountainous task of being a special master in the Mar-a-Lago records case. It's a public conference. We'll be there. We'll be able to report out what happens. We'll see if there's more discussion, debate, or arguments about this classification claim, and if the former president's legal team makes more acknowledgments about it.
So I guess I was just under the impression that the special master was just going to dig into these documents and say, you know, in or out, exempt or not exempt. Is this meeting or hearing about sort of hammering out ground rules?
Yep, and a timetable. Ground rules and a expectation as to when they'll conclude the process. The federal judge in Florida, Eileen Cannon, who ordered this special master or approved the idea, set a tentative deadline of November 30th for the special master to wrap up his work. Now the special master, Judge Raymond Dearie, is going to set his own timetable of what mileposts he's going to put down, when certain things should be submitted, when he'll rule on certain issues. But this really is the baseline issue. If the former president's going to claim he classified some of his records, Judge Dearie needs to know about it, needs to know which of those records are classified. It's certainly going to impact his ruling or his determinations and his timetable. So this is more of an organizational meeting today, but it feels like, at least the motions filed in court last night indicate, the special master wants to get down to business on this classification issue immediately.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the midterm elections coming up. 7 weeks away, primary season is over. And as we know, the thing about primaries is often the more extreme candidates are able to win primaries, but then come the general election, it gets a little tougher to determine whether or not they will have broad appeal. And what I'm talking about are some people on ballots that are election deniers. What are some of the concerns when it comes to these candidates?
Yeah, in some ways, these candidates for congressional offices, for statewide offices and local offices, won their primaries by outflanking others in their party on the issue of the 2020 election. By being a firm denialist about the legitimacy of the 2020 elections, those candidates were able to secure the nominations. In some cases, Anne-Marie, because it helped them secure the endorsement of former President Trump, who still has so much sway in Republican primaries. Now, we often see at this time of year, in September of an election year, a transition or a softening of primary positions for a general election. We're not seeing that universally this year. We're not seeing some of the edges taken off of this election denialism by some of the candidates who secured primary victories. We look at Pennsylvania's gubernatorial race, where the nominee, Doug Mastriano, has not softened at all his denialism of the 2020 elections. Mastriano, you'll recall, was actually at the Capitol January 6th in the Arizona races, where you have a gubernatorial candidate who's been firm on her criticisms of the 2020 election. So we haven't seen so much of a transition this year, and that's the storyline going into Election Day, Anne-Marie. Does that cost those candidates their seats or the chance to win these seats, or is it irrelevant and they win anyway? Either one of those outcomes could impact future election cycles, future primaries, and most certainly the 2024 campaigns.
Indeed, and the opinion as to whether or not Donald Trump has impact or not when it comes to these elections, which I'm sure we'll be talking about. Scott, thank you very much.